Well, it seems like we have to talk about the secondary market in Flesh and Blood again, as things are fluctuating pretty heavily. But is it because of buyouts? Or do a lot of people not really know what a buyout means? Welcome on in, Dragon Folk. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I know I am. My name is Alex, and you are here with me in the Dragon's Lair. Now, today we are going over what is essentially the big discourse that is happening in the Flesh and Blood community as of right now, which is people talking about buyouts. Now, I've made a video previously about buyouts, and you'll also notice I'm sitting in a chair today. That is because we have to have a sit-down, small conversation about this specific topic. This weekend is pre-release for Outsiders for Flesh and Blood, and with that has come quite a bit of discourse in regards to the open market. Now, of course, I highly suggest that if you don't care anything about the market at all, feel free to not even bother with this, right? This is simply my own personal opinion, and I am not a financial advisor, so do not let me sway the way in which you spend your money. Just know that I feel like there's a confusion or a sense of confusion amongst a lot of people that are talking about what a buyout truly is and what we may just be experiencing here on this open market. Now, what do I mean by there being these buyouts that are happening all over on things like TCGPlayer and eBay and so on and so forth? I think a lot of places are looking strictly into TCGPlayer for this information, but what we are seeing is certain legendaries and even some majestics that are in Flesh and Blood from previous sets are being what a good portion of the community thinks is bought out, which, to be honest, sounds pretty accurate and in a way is, but is also not. I don't know if that's going to make any kind of sense to you guys here, but what a buyout really is I want you to think like Magic the Gathering, right? A reserved list buyout is somebody who can go to a certain card that's on the reserved list and they can buy 20 of that card every like 3 days or something until eventually they own a good position in that single card. Now, the reserve list obviously is a big thing in Magic. We all know about it, but I won't go over it here. But the purpose of doing that is to hold a good portion of the product on your own so that when it becomes in demand, you can sell it off at whatever price you want, pretty much. You have collectors who want things like reserve list product and so on and so forth. And people will buy at whatever price need be, especially if it's been bought out. If there's next to nothing on the open market anymore, and one guy owns like 70% of the card, then they can go ahead and just name a price. And that will help determine where the card stands. Now, of course, not everybody who is planning on selling that one card is going to be, is going to go for that same price. But if most of the cards are going for $50 and one person is selling them for $30, that $30 one is probably going to be bought out by the guy who wants to sell them for $50, so on and so forth, yada yada. That's like a buyout, right? You own a good position of the cards that you are planning to sell, essentially hoarding a portion of the market for yourself to eventually sell when the time is right. And this is, and also might not be, what's happening with Flesh and Blood right now. Flesh and Blood has the new set Outsiders coming out in just 2 weeks. With that being said, there are new heroes being introduced as well as new cards for certain classes. And some people who may be fed up with playing things like Dromai, for instance, or maybe they're fed up with playing Viserai of some sort and maybe they want to just make a change, they may want to take that focus and go buy the cards they need for those heroes. The issue with this is that when players are looking to switch heroes, they have to find the legendaries that are good for that hero, or at least the ones that they want to use for their build. And in most cases, if you're looking to change heroes, you may not already have the legendary equipment pieces you might need. these legendary equipment pieces are few and far between. And I think it is because of a couple things, and we'll go over those in just a little bit. But as a new set is announced, like Dusk Till Dawn, which is another reason a lot of these cards have spiked in price, as well as with the addition of Outsiders coming out, there are a lot of spikes in price for a lot of legendary equipment or just equipment in general. Even some of the Majestics have gone up in price since that time, simply because people are preparing for these heroes to possibly be so good that they're going to change the meta entirely, and these cards are going to be necessary for that hero to be good. So they're going to end up spiking the price a whole bunch, and then people can just sell their hero if they don't want to play it anymore at a high price, right? A changing meta or a new addition to a meta is very much so a big factor as to when cards go up and down. If a hero like Bolton, for instance, is not very good in the format, in specifically Classic Constructed, then Bolton stuff normally is really easy to get. You look at stuff like Spirit of Irina, which is a new card that came out in Dynasty at legendary rarity and is extremely cheap to pick up as of right now. It has gone up a little bit since the announcement of Dusk Till Dawn, but again, that's what I mean. There are people who are hyping up certain heroes and hyping up certain talents, and because of that, we are seeing spikes in these prices. But at some point, they will go back down. It's just inevitable. If Bolton doesn't get anything in Dusk Till Dawn to make them even an A-tier hero, people are not going to be playing Bolton, or at least a good portion of people aren't going to be playing Bolton. And then everybody who doesn't want their Bolton stuff is going to sell their Bolton stuff, try to make a quick buck, and the prices are going to drop. And then if you want to pick up Bolton stuff, you can do that at a pretty easy rate. That's how you stay relevant and at least prepare yourself for the future of Flesh and Blood. Now, I'm not saying buy everything, but getting stuff when it's cheap is very important, because once you have a legendary, you don't really need another one. You're pretty much set on that matter. If you ever get a Findel Spring Tunic, you don't ever need to buy another Findel Spring Tunic, ever. So buying up these legendaries is really, really a good call. Again, a problem here that we're talking about is none other than the supply. The fact of the matter is that we have one of two things happening at this point. We either have nobody opening boxes, or at least not a whole lot of people opening boxes, which is understandable because not a lot of LGS want to open up product if they don't already have a huge backing behind the Flesh and Blood community, and therefore they open maybe a couple boxes, maybe a little bit so they can start selling online, and then as they grow, maybe they get more, it moves on from there. But then you also have people like, I don't know, Flukenbox. Flukenbox has just opened up a store, and he's been cracking boxes for a little while now. And that's what you kind of need, right? You have people like Overload Gaming, who is doing Master Set Madness over on their channel. And it's, you're getting one of each card and selling off the rest and trying to make whatever profit you can to continue on your Master Set. This will eventually get things into the market. Cases upon cases upon cases upon cases will be opened. But because they're not being opened as rapidly as one would think, or at least not as rapidly as something like Magic the Gathering, we're not seeing as many of these high ticket items like Mask of Momentum and Carrion Husk and Braveforge Bracers. We're not seeing a lot of these enter into the market because nobody's opening boxes. Or at least a good portion of the community isn't opening boxes, which is understandable. I'm very much so the person to say that you should be buying singles, because that way you don't have to hunt for a product and you know what you're going to get and you can just go ahead and get it. But there's so many people who not only don't open product, but they open almost what I would consider to be the wrong product, especially when it comes to Welcome to Wraith and Arcane Rising and Crucible of War. And that's the fact that History Pack 1 exists. History Pack Volume 1 is a huge set combining all three of those previously mentioned sets together and taking all the good parts, besides Heart of Findel, out of those sets and allowing them to be printed indefinitely, pretty much, in this white border set. But not a lot of people are opening them. And because they're not opening a lot of them, these cards are not entering the market, which means that these cards are now still almost as expensive, if not just about as expensive, as their black border versions because people aren't opening them. Now, of course, that's an assumption of one thing. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that there very well could be a ton of people opening products. I mean, I'm talking opening boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. But something that I think a lot of people are taking advantage of, and understandable because this is a volatile time we live in. And if you can make a quick buck anywhere by keeping a piece of cardboard in a sleeve for X amount of months, years, then I'm sure you do that. But what I imagine people are doing is they are, in fact, opening a lot of this product. And instead of immediately selling it onto the market, they're waiting until there's a new announcement for a new set, much like how Dusk Till Dawn is making a bunch of people buy out a whole bunch of stuff from Monarch, because Monarch is the only other set that had light and shadow stuff, and Dusk Till Dawn is a supplementary set for the light and shadow, talents. So I imagine that there are some people who probably opened a lot of Monarch back when it was like $80 for a first ed box and $50 for an unlimited box, and they just cracked open a whole bunch of them and then held onto any legendaries that they had. Then, when a new thing is introduced and people get hyped and the hype continues to rise, people will sell them at their hyped price. So what I'm trying to say is that Flesh and Blood is still pretty inexpensive comparatively, because a lot of these cards that are going up in value, in the hundreds, 200s, they go up in value, but you only need to buy one. So at the end of the day, you don't ever need to buy another one. You only need to get one. And am I saying you should hunt for these in boxes? No. I think for the long-term health of the economy, more boxes need to be opened. And I hope to be doing that by opening an amazing bundle that is from our not sponsored, but if you ever want to sponsor me, feel free, MinMaxGames. MinMaxGames made a Anti-Buyout Bundle just recently, and they've got some pretty cool stuff on there. You get 2 boxes of Monarch Unlimited, a Welcome to Wraith Unlimited box, and a booster box of History Pack Volume 1. All of these sets containing cards that are currently being, as the market would consider, bought out. And again, the reason I don't think these are buyouts is not so much because of the fact that there's less and less of them on the market every single day. Obviously, with less being on the market, and there's 10 of them leaving the market every single day or something, you're obviously going to get what you would think is a buyout. But in theory, there's just not enough supply. So really, when there's less than 50 Mask of Momentum available on TCGPlayer right now. In between the History Pack Volume 1 version and the Welcome to Wraith version, there's less than 50 Mask of Momentum available. And Ninja is just about to get a crazy amount of new cards, not to mention all the other cool things that are going to exist, and all the people who wanted to play 5 for forever. Benji is getting new stuff. Ira's still pretty awesome in the Blitz format. There's a ton of reasons to buy Mask of Momentum if you have not already. We do, again, also have a lot of influx of new players coming in. And if 30 new players want to play Ninja, or 30 players in general, even if you've never played Ninja but you want to, and you have to pick up a Mask of Momentum, there's only 30 left on the market. If 30 people want to play Ninja and they all buy a Mask of Momentum, yeah, I would imagine if you're watching the prices, you go, well, now that I'm like one of 2 Mask of Momentums left available on the market, maybe I should just increase my prices, especially if you're, if you're trying to make like a business move out of it. I don't think that you should do that. I think that they should be mildly affordable. I think like $150 is a little too much for a Mask of Momentum, but again, it's a one-time purchase and you never need to buy another one. So it is always very, very good, and it's a small investment into what is your now legendary collection. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about all this? Do you believe that there's some crazy evil investor out there who's just buying up all these legendaries and waiting until the next set's released and then dumping them on TCGPlayer for 10 times what they're worth? Or do you think that it's just more new players? Do you think it's players in general changing their strategies now that new stuff has come out for a hero that maybe they gave up on in the past? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I know there's a lot of controversy around these buyouts, and there's a lot of stuff that people who just don't watch the market wouldn't understand. I do truly think that if you're thinking about buying any of these bought out cards, right, you can just wait. Wait until that hero is no longer as hyped or viable, because you're going to get them at a cheaper price. Mask of Momentum was at $75 for the History Pack Volume 1 version, and I believe a little bit cheaper even when Fi got hit with the Belittle ban. Really, Classic Constructed got hit with the Belittle ban, right? That told a lot of Fi players, oh, well, I don't want to play anymore. They ruined my hero, and I'm not going to be able to play Belittle anymore. My value engine is gone. I'm not even going to bother playing Ninja. They're killing it, even though they didn't really do anything with it. Fi still topped like a lot of tournaments. But the price went down. People, when they don't get their way, will sell everything that they have and then come back 3 months later when another hero that they like is getting new support, and they'll go, oh, I'll buy this stuff back. All right, it'll be fine. They don't bother keeping it. They'll sell it at a loss. Doesn't matter. They're just looking to make a quick buck so they can feed their next hobby purchase and then move on from there. So keep that in mind. It's not going to be like this forever. But one of two things needs to happen. Either people who are hoarding this product need to sell it to players, for players to happen. And I understand not making that business move to want to do that is you know, in a mindset correct, right? Like if from a business perspective, you want to sell this card at a higher price or at its highest price that you can. But I also think that you want people to be playing the game. And if everybody who enters the game thinks that they can't play Ninja because one of the best headpieces for Ninja is $230, it'll probably hurt the sales, and eventually it'll have to creep back down anyway. So it all will regulate in time. Either that, or we as a community need to open up more boxes. Go buy a box from your LGS. Go buy this Anti-Buyout Bundle that MinMax is doing. There's tons of cool stuff in the bundle. You get them for super cheap. And it's just what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't have a ton of skin in the game as far as Flesh and Blood goes. I'm certainly not sitting on, PCG 10 alpha pink snatches or whatever. But I have a general idea of how supply and demand works. And I think this is more so what we're seeing as opposed to a evil investor's buyout of the product. So again, let me know in the comments what you guys think about all this. And while you're down there, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. And you can also join our Patreon in the description down below, or our channel membership. I do hope to have some pretty cool things for the channel membership up sometime soon here, so stay tuned for that. And as always, I wanted to thank you again so much for being here. You were super, super amazing. I hope you are enjoying the rest of your day, and I will see you all very soon. Nerd out.